Let's hit it. Everyone, welcome back to the show. It's nice to see you and your beautiful faces. I hope they're beautiful. And if they're not, there's plenty of plastic surgeons out there and you can go get whatever work you want done. And apparently, looking around society in the gym these days, there's no limit to how much work you could get done on your body. So anyway, welcome to the show. A little bit of an odd, fiery start on that. I will concede that to you. Cheers to you. And on today's show, we are going to be talking about appraisals and specifically a bit of a nuanced point, which is what if an appraisal comes in high? Okay. Now, for those of you that, just super brief recap here. You buy a house, you're getting a loan on the house. The bank is not just going to say like, yeah, we'll just loan you whatever you want. We don't even care what the property's worth. We'll just give you the loan. Doesn't work that way, right? You have to get an appraisal. So someone, not your real estate agent, but someone from, essentially representing the bank, if you will, is going to go out and they're going to look at the house and they're going to, I don't really think they do that much, to be honest with you, but they're going to go out there and then they're going to do some homework and find some good comparable sales, AKA comps, and they're going to send that report to the bank of like, hey, this is what we believe the home is actually worth, right? And then that's what you're actually going to get your loan on. Now, it is most typical that your appraisal is going to come in at the value at which you're offering on the properties. In the case that we're going to be talking about, it was a house that was listed for $480,000. So let's just say that most of the time, the appraisal is probably going to come in at $480,000. The appraisers are kind of like trying to justify the price that you're offering versus like nitpicking down to like $1 or $2, So typically it's going to come in at value, as we would say. Sometimes it will come in low. That one's a bummer. That one will be a different topic for a different day. Occasionally it comes in high. And if you are on the seller's end, a high appraisal should be a little bit of a pet peeve to you. It happens, okay? I'm not saying your agent sucked or anything, but it's definitely like, damn, we might have been able to get more for our house. But if it comes in high and you're on the buyer's end, we're fist pumping, we're celebrating now, okay? This is really good news. And the reality is, okay, so I'm gonna just break down an actual scenario that happened with a client of ours. So it was, I'll leave names and everything out of it, but $480,000 house, we offered $490,000, okay, which was, so that's 10 over the listing price or the asking price, and the appraisal actually came in at $495,000. Now, we're excited for a couple reasons. One, I always brace our clients, hey, if we're going over on the appraisal, or sorry, if we're going over on the listing price, so it's listed at 480, we're going at 490, you need to expect that you're probably going to have to come up with that 10K out of pocket. What I mean by the 10K is, hey, look, let's assume it's going to appraise at 480 because that's what it was listed at, and let's assume that the listing agent did their homework to think like, yes, that's what we actually believe it's worth. So if we go 10,000 over, let's assume it's not going to appraise for that 10,000 over, therefore you're going to need to cover that gap per how a lot of the contracts are written these days without going too far into it. So not only are we excited because we didn't have to go $10,000 out of pocket, and by we, I mean the client, but hey, you got 5,000 even above what we offered. So that's great news. And there's a couple of different ways to handle it. Sorry, everyone, the nose is just, I think it's dog hair or something. Dog hair or something's gotten up in that right, it's right in that right nostril right there. Option number one, just be happy that you just made $5,000 on paper, because that's essentially what it is. You go, hey, look, you just made $5,000. It's like stock money, right? Where you put money into a stock and it went from being worth $10,000 to $10,500. And you're like, hey, I'm $500 richer now. Yeah, it's on paper. I don't get that 500 or 5,000 in this case until you actually cash in your stock. But just know that, hey, look, you do have an extra $5,000 in equity in your house, and we can just celebrate that and be excited and then move on. The second option would be, depending on you and what your cash situation is and what you want your cash situation to stay as, you could ask the sellers to cover $5,000 in your closing costs. Okay, so essentially here's how this would work. You would say, hey, look, we as the buyer, we are changing our, still in there, just floating around. We are changing our price that we are offering you, the sellers, to $495,000. Okay, so we're actually going to pay you $5,000 more than we were already paying you. The reason that we can do that is because we already know that the appraisal is good to go at $495,000. Now, what we're going to ask in return is that you, the sellers, pay $5,000 of the buyer's closing costs. Okay, so essentially the sellers go, okay, we were going to get $490,000 for the house. Now we're going to get $495,000, but we're going to send $5,000 to cover the buyer's closing costs, aka our new net is $490,000. So basically, their net number stays the same. If you have reasonable sellers, there's no reason they shouldn't agree to this. And can't really think of a scenario where I was dealing with sellers that had an issue with this. First of all, it's pretty uncommon that it even happens. Probably once out of every like 20 are you going to have this scenario come up where it came in high and the buyer would like to get some of these closing costs covered. The benefit to the buyer is that they have to come up with less cash out of pocket at closing. So if you just say, just to make this simple, let's just say the buyer's coming in with $40,000 as a down payment. Yeah, you're still going to have probably $5,000, $6,000, somewhere in there in closing costs that you're going to have to cover. So it's like, hey, the amount of cash that you have to bring to the table at the end or wire transfer would be $45,000. So we're going, hey, if we get the sellers to pay $5,000 of your closing costs, the number's back down to 40. It's just your down payment number, right? So the benefit is, hey, you save $5,000 out of pocket. The con to this would be, hey, your loan amount is now going to be $5,000 higher. So you're going to be financing an extra $5,000. It's really going to come down to you as the buyer. Like, would you rather, very simply, would you rather save $5,000 out of pocket right now? That's $5,000. It doesn't have to leave your bank account, but you're going to have a slightly, very slightly higher mortgage payment because you're going to be financing that extra $5,000. Or would you rather eat the $5,000, just pay it out of pocket? I was already planning on paying it anyway, and your mortgage payment is not going to have that $5,000 built into it that you're financing. So most sellers not going to have an issue with it. Their net number stays the same regardless. Hey, they were going to make $490 before in their house, and they're going to make $490 now. It just looks like, hey, we made $495, but we kicked $5,000 back to the buyer, so we're back to $490, if that makes sense. That's my best version of trying to make this pretty simple, because it actually is pretty simple. But you can let us know in the comments if you got any questions on it. It is a pretty nuanced point, but if you ever find yourself in that situation, you should definitely ask your agent, hey, how should we handle this? Should we ask for them to cover our closing costs, or should we not, and just celebrate that we got $5,000 in equity in the house? So totally up to you. That's that, everyone. Thanks for stopping by the channel. Subscribe to it if you haven't. Drop us a comment. I mean, we get like 2 comments a week right now, and no, I'm not making that up. So get in there, ask some questions. I don't care. You can just comment with comment, or doing it for the algorithm. That's what a lot of people do on our other 1911 Syndicate channel. But get in there, subscribe to it. If you need real estate help, you can go to 1911syndicate.com. We've got a lot of different states that we operate in, and yeah, so we can help you out in a lot of different places. It was pretty good. It was pretty good today, everyone. I'm trying to do the David Letterman thing. So from me, the dog, the bourbon, nice to see you. Hope you guys are having a good week. We'll see you soon.